Hello and welcome to the North Metro SBDC programming.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Raul Lopez, and I am the Assistant Director for the North Metro SBDC. And we're excited to have you here today for Jay to present. This is his second talk in an 8-series talk, really spread out throughout the year, however. So definitely stay tuned for the next one when you see that in our newsletter. It's important that these all tie together, right? And these are big overview topics when it comes to market research. I'll let Jay start to get into the nitty gritty of that. But another great thing that I just want to allude to, I'll drop the link later, but at some point, you definitely want to sign up with Jay for a one-on-one advising session. So again, all of our one-on-one advising is free as long as you have a business in Colorado. And Jay is amazing. He's our market research specialist. So everything he does is how do you find information? How do you utilize that for your specific industry, business, niche, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you could just really quickly, since we're a small group, intimate group today, I think we'll do something a little bit different. I'd love to hear from each of you individually. If you're able to unmute yourself, jump on. I'll call you out individually here real quick. Just say your name, what your business is, the name and type. If you have a business, if you don't have one, just say I don't have one yet. If you know the idea, you can always share that if you'd like to. Where are you located? Where's your business located? City, and what's maybe one thing you're looking to learn or intrigued about this talk? What got your attention about this? So let's go ahead and start with Lori.
Okay. Yeah, so I run ABC Music Academy. I'm here in Westminster at 120th and Sheridan. I've been looking for a commercial space, but I'm a little leery of making the jump because the retail rents are so high. And it's kind of scary to think of buying an office building when it seems like a lot of people have transitioned away from working in offices. So I'm wanting to get just data about demand for music lessons in the area. I'm just curious about the data piece.
Awesome. That's great. And Maori, go ahead.
Hello, guys. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, by the way. I cannot turn it off the camera because I'm working on the event right now. But actually, my business is a catering company for food, and I'm looking for research, to increment my clients. Um, and that's the reason I'm taking this class.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, Na Lam here. I just recently opened Tech Help for Seniors in the Thornton area. So my services is basically in-home service. So I come to them for any sort of technical issues that, our aging population may have. Just joined this webinar just to learn.
Awesome. That's very interesting. Thank you, Na. And sorry if I get this wrong again. Rhiannon. Rhiannon. Okay, almost.
That's okay. It's okay. I'm Rhiannon. I am really just in the very, very infant stages of opening a mobile dirty soda shop. It's going to be called Sip Society. I'm really excited about it, but we're just I have a business partner and we're really just kind of trying to soak in everything that we possibly can. So kind of like now, I just want to learn. I want to, get get my hands in every little piece of education that I can. So Lori, dirty soda is it's basically like soda concoctions. So you do different syrups and different creams and things like that, and you can create different flavors. You can build your own. You can do it with water. So really kind of a fun adventure. I'm in Brighton, but like I said, we're going to be mobile. So we're going to probably just start in Adams County and then get our feet wet and go from there.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
One more side note, and the beauty of like doing things like this and being in a network is I already see a bunch of overlap here, right? We've got
Sure.
food, catering, dirty soda, music. It's very interesting. Okay,
Mhm.
so Jay, let's go ahead and I'll turn it over to
Cool.
you, Jay, and if you can introduce yourself and get going here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll share my slide deck here and really quickly, Rhiannon, that's like non-alcoholic. So when I thought
Yes.
of, it's not like hard soda related. Okay, okay,
No.
okay.
Nope.
Cool. Interesting. Yeah, that's really cool. Great. Yeah, let me get my slide deck here and I'll give you some context for things. One of the parts of my presentation today as well goes over a little bit of some background from the last episode, the last part of the series, and we'll talk a little bit about where we're going to go from this today too. So, yeah, would love for you to be able to attend ongoing series. What I tend to do, well, here I'll explain. I'm from the library world. I was an academic librarian for a number of years, and I always wanted to be a little bit more involved with the general public in librarianship, and there was a business librarian position that came available at the Denver Public Library a number of years back, and I applied for it and got the job. It was not an area that I originally set out to be in with libraries. In fact, when I was in the academic side of things, I worked at Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction, and actually at the Auraria Library in Denver for a little while as well. But when the business students came to the reference desk, we would all kind of like freeze up and look around and be like, oh, I don't know how to help you. So, it's just funny that I kind of made it into this world of business librarianship, where at the Denver Public Library, I was working one-on-one with small businesses. Over my time there, I know I'm no longer there, but I think there's over 500 different businesses that I had the pleasure of working one-on-one with, helping them to learn about the resources that the library had and how to just, get going and start thinking about doing market research so that they had the best, you know, opportunities and just understood their markets as best they could, so that with the limited resources that and the bootstrapped kind of nature of small businesses, they could do as much as they could with those limited resources. So, so as Raul said, I am going to give, a kind of go through this process throughout the year. So I'm kind of giving real deep dives actually into real specific areas of doing market research. But also I'd love to work one-on-one with you if you need the help and want to just talk about that. I think one of the hardest things about teaching others how to do this kind of research, if you're new to it, is that the secondary research that I focus on tends to be stuff that doesn't always really specifically pinpoint niche markets like some of yours, right? So, I think catering is one that's quite established, right? So, Maury, I think, there's going to be really great resources out there that really specifically talk about catering. And I've worked with a number of caterers, both in the Denver area and on the west slope of Colorado. So I've got a pretty decent sense of some of the things there. But yes, like, with dirty soda, that's such a niche thing, right? So we're going to need to grab information that's tangential and related, and we're going to need to use as much information as we can and look into the different, in this case, today's workshop is a lot about the industry and the greater market of what's going on. And yeah, I think what I want you all to come away with tonight is to know and to feel okay with the uncomfortableness of not getting, real specific data about your exact niche market. So that is a big thing. But it doesn't mean, there's so many businesses that do it this way. And so I'm going to give you some examples today. We're going to do some case studies that get into more specific businesses. And I'm going to show you how you can go through this process and, again, develop some like resiliency towards that uncomfortable feeling of not getting direct answers about, who are my exact customers? What exactly is the sales what's the market size exactly of an industry like this, those types of things. So, but we do our best. We try to find as much information to be able to make those decisions as possible. So feel free to, schedule an appointment with me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm trying to be more active there. And and so we'll go on here, and if you don't mind, Raul, let me know if there's some other chats. I've got this tiny laptop screen that doesn't allow me to have all those windows open. So so please let me know, and feel free to comment or even come off mute and ask some questions if they're relevant at that moment. The smaller group makes it possible to act that, or to go that way. So okay, so what we'll do today is I'm going to recap a little bit about what we talked about last time. So in the grand scheme of things, I teach a process of looking at 3 major areas of doing market research. Oftentimes, market research is thought of as surveys and questionnaires and interviews and things like that. From my experience, I focus a little bit more on that secondary research type of thing. So the latter would have been called primary research, where you're doing interviews, you're doing focus groups, and you're getting feedback from potential customers. I still like to do that type of work. There's one of the series that we'll do later in the year on customer discovery interviews, and it's a way that you can interview potential customers to learn all of the things that the market research reports and the secondary research that we're going to be talking about up to that point, that kind of falls between the cracks of those reports and everything. So so I'm going to recap a little bit what we did last time. It was more about collecting information, ways that we can find all the reports that could be useful. Today, we're going to get into going through those reports and looking at specific businesses. And I'm going to share some tools with you that you can take away and use this, but it's a difficult process if you haven't done it before. And it's, a lot of times we don't know where to start, where to take it, know if we're doing things correctly, that type of thing. So I want to give you the guidance to know that you can set forward on a path with this, know that you're getting somewhere with it, and you're not kind of having to figure it out on your own. So we'll go over some case studies, and that's going to be the major part of what we do today. And what this is going to do is set us up to move into our next levels of research. I didn't mention it. So industry research is one big component. Competitor research is another big component. And then customer research is another big component. And I really like to think about those 3. They're not completely siloed, but they're siloed enough that you can really focus on one or the other, but there's always going to be some overlap between those areas, right? So if you think of a Venn diagram, there's always going to be overlap of, stuff that comes out of the industry research that is absolutely related to customer research. But we're going to set ourselves up today to have a sense of putting a bit of an action plan together in order to go forward researching competitors and customers. So what I want to get across is that we're going to be taking these reports that we had spent a lot of time in the last session finding and translating those into opportunities and understanding the layout and the landscape kind of what's happening in our industries. We want to absolutely identify different opportunities that match what we envision our business to be. I think that's the beauty of starting a business, right? Is we can do our particular things. We can work with the people we want to work with. We can not work with the people we don't want to work with, all those kinds of things. And so so that's what we want to try to match what we're seeing in the overall market and in what's happening in the industries, and align those with the visions that we have for our business. And then, of course, I want you to have the skills and a little bit more of understanding on how to make an action plan, basically, for going forward with the competitors and customer research. So the next workshop, which I think is in early April, will be dedicated and focusing on competitor research. So just keep that in mind. So a little recap. of what we had focused on last time. And again, this might be a good reason to get in touch, and we can work together to find and compile all the reports that would be useful for then going through what we're going to go through today. So we talked a lot about, why to do this, and there's a lot of obvious reasons, but there's some that aren't as obvious. I won't go into these in too much detail, but we want to understand who our customers are. We want to validate whether a business idea it has potential or not, right? We want to, of course, make informed decisions and not waste any money or waste time and effort when we often don't have a lot of money to be throwing at these businesses as they get going. We want to be able to see that our competitors are either following the greater trends or not. And what I find when we do competitor research is that there's a really great snowball effect that happens. Often people are a little leery to look too deeply at who their competitors are. But once we do that, often you'll find that what you're doing, you're not that much farther behind more established competitors out there. And so it's really, really great motivating factor. So we want to be able to know that, these larger trends, we can see whether the competitors are focusing on them or not. Of course, adapting to changes in the market, and that goes anywhere from political changes, as so much is happening now, to just other behavioral changes and things as well. Yeah, so I won't go much more into these. They kind of go without saying. So let's move on here. I talked a lot too about just the iterative nature of research and how it's research isn't cherry picking information that we want to see. It's very much an exploration. And we need to be objective in what we're finding. And but what I mean by psychological too is that it goes in waves often. Sometimes we might be looking at research and we're not sure if we're kind of going in the right direction with things, but you'll find that it really builds off itself, and it creates this kind of snowball effect where you feel lost and you feel like you're in the mud or in the fog. But the more you look into it, the fog starts clearing, the direction starts focusing. You often find that you see an endpoint for what it is you're trying to figure out. And again, I'm thinking of this in a larger kind of deeper process of doing this. My process is one that that takes quite a bit of effort, but once it's done, it's not something you tend to have to recreate in that same depth going forward. It's more maintenance going forward. So that's where I'm talking in psychological and the iterative nature of doing research. And then I talked about organizing oneself. And so we went into some different techniques on how to kind of keep these things organized. Everybody has a different way of doing it, but I shared some different examples, and I can help you do that as well if we worked one-on-one. Where to find information. So there's a lot of great sources that the government produces through things like the Census Bureau. Tends to be sort of foundational data that many other reports use. They'll find more niche reports, or they'll create more niche reports based off of a lot of that government data, which is really impressive the way that our government creates the census, for instance. It is such a massive undertaking, the decennial census that we have in the United States. And they also do economic censuses that are I think it's on a 5-year basis. But these are incredibly huge projects that no private company, I think, would have the means to be able to take on. And so government sources are incredible places to find information. Libraries, I'm always harping on how great they are because I'm from that world. And we're lucky in the state of Colorado. We have a number of really great libraries on the Front Range that allow anybody that lives in the state of Colorado to access them, and they have really great resources that we can use. So that's something that we went into some pretty good detail with. And then every industry to some level has different trade associations, professional organizations, um, guilds, right? And all these different things that organize those people working in those associations. And so it's very rare that we don't find a trade association or a professional organization that isn't helping, devising research, doing everything they can to prop up that industry as best they can. And so those are three really big areas that we would turn to find information. And then the big areas that we're going to be looking at, and like I said, today we're going to get into real specific questions that we want to answer from these major reports that we're going to look at. But they tend to be things like market size, growth trends. Are things looking up, or are they flat, or are they declining? So we need to know those things to make good decisions. Sorry, some of my Zoom controls are in the middle of my slides here. I can't even see what I'm writing under there, but whoops, sorry. Yeah, industry performance, and then emerging trends and opportunities. So these are things that tend to be evaluated in these different reports. Not every report is going to hit on all of these areas of content. And you'll see in some of the examples that I give that just sometimes you don't find anything related to it. And so one thing I'll say with it is that when you're looking for information, I think I kind of mentioned this before, research is not about cherry picking things that we want to see. That yeah, that's not research. That's just confirming our biases, right? It's just kind of saying, I want to see this, and I'm going to go find the thing that tells me that, and then I'm going to run with it. What I would tell you is that when you see things, trends, market sizes, performance measurements, and all these different things, you want to try to see that it's consistent in other places as well. If you don't, that's an outlier of some sort, and we need to do more investigation to know with what we're looking at, is true or not, or is as valid as it seems to be showing in a report. So I'm a big proponent of looking in multiple places to try to find similar related things. Now, the slides, by the way, too, are going to be shared with you. These are all there's a lot of links in these slides that take you to different things. These are all a bunch of different names of resources that are available. These ones are all Denver Public Library available resources. And there are demonstrations, little screencast demonstrations of how to use them. And so there's some really great resources here that I would recommend for looking at all of your businesses, actually. So these are the places where I would start. I would kind of do a check mark, search through all of these to start compiling a pile, right, of reports that we would then go through and systematically look through in more detail. There are also a few others that are not available at the library, but they are really great. Some of them, as I mentioned here, are things that are just Google searchable. And then other things like this thing called IBIS World reports. It's kind of the gold standard of reports, in fact. There are a few academic libraries in the Front Range. The Auraria Library, the Norland Library at Colorado University, Boulder, CSU's library, and the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley's library. So kind of in the neck of the woods for a lot of the North Metro client businesses. They have them as well, but you often have to physically show up onto those campuses with your laptop, or you need to get on one of the public computers, and you'll be able to access those databases. IBIS World is, if you were to purchase one of these reports on your own, it could be in the thousands of dollars. I think I've seen $3,000-$4,000 for one 60-page report or something like that. So these are very valuable. So if you can, if it's worth spending half a day going to one of these libraries, which all of them, I think, I'm almost positive, I know Auraria is, allow the general public to use them. So there are ways that you can get your hands on these. Just unfortunately, can't do it always from the convenience of your home office or anything. So, and then the resource that I shared last week, or last time we had series, or last session, was this Google form that I had created, basically. So the point of this, and again, these are all linked out. So when Raul sends this to everybody, you'll be able to come in and link out to these. This is going to force a copy for your own records. And so it's going to go into your Google Drive, and you can change the questions, because these aren't going to be universal. They're quite universal general questions that everybody should try to answer to some degree, but some of them are not going to be as relevant. So I put everything that I thought was relevant for most businesses in here, but you'll be able to change those questions. And then what you would do is you would take one of the reports, and I'll show you examples momentarily here. You would read through a report and you would answer the questions one at a time on here. And if you haven't used the Google form, basically what it does, many of us have, but it basically will then create your answers, and you can put them into a spreadsheet. And so you'll be able to view the spreadsheet with columns of all the same questions, and you can look at your multiple reports and the answers that you found all in one place. And again, I'll show you some views of what that will look like for the sample case studies that we're going to be looking at. So let's get into some case studies, but I'll stop for a moment, take a breath, and have a quick drink. Any thoughts, any questions so far? I tend to kind of throw a lot out at you. Cool. All right. If you think of anything, let me know. Anything in the chat? Sorry, Raul, I'm sure you would have let me know by now.
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. Okay, so these are the two areas that I've worked with some people recently, similar things, and then also I used to be a home brewer, and so I just thought that this would be kind of a fun one in a niche retail type of thing. So one is more an online type of business, right? So health, wellness coaching. We work with a lot of kind of consultancy type businesses at the SBDC. So I thought that would be an interesting one. And then, yeah, this homebrew supply store can be both retail, physical retail space, can also be online, e-commerce. And so these are the areas that I'm going to go over today. And I'm going to show you in different ways how this plays out. So let's get into it here. So this screen is showing 6 different report types. Again, these are all related to those areas that I had mentioned previously. So the top left is one on the healthcare sector, right? Okay, so this is a big part of that, feeling comfortable, not being as niche or specific as you probably want these reports to be. Doesn't mean you can't find things that are really close to what you're doing, but often it's sort of in the perimeters, or it's not always exactly lined up with our business ideas. So for a health and wellness coach, the healthcare sector includes physicians, right? Surgeons, but it also includes hospice, or all these other areas, including wellness and coaching in that regard. So that's going to be a real high elevation view of the industry. We'll look at some things from that. Then there's also the wellness industry in the United States. Now, the wellness industry is more niche, right? It comes down closer to preventive care, things like that. Then there's another IBIS World report that I was able to look through, that is a life coach. And so again, that gets to the coaching sides of things. It's not specific to health and wellness coaching, but it's life coaching. It's helping others navigate navigate and better get better outcomes for pursuits that they have in their life. The bottom left, we get into a report that talks about, again, it's on the healthcare sector side of things, but it's offices of all other miscellaneous health practitioners. So you'll see sometimes these names are very ethereal and everything, but that one encompasses offices of health services that are not physicians again. So that's that. The middle one that says market report on it, U.S. sales of herbal supplements, actually comes from a society, I think it's the Herbalist Guild, the American Guild of Herbalists or something like that. Can't quite remember, or the American Botanical Society, I want to say. And it's a very niche report, right? So now we're getting into some things that can narrow down a little bit. And then finally, the bottom right one is health coaching industry report. So now we're getting a little closer with these things. But if we look at these as a whole, we're going to get some really, really great information that gives us a wide ranging view. And hopefully it's going to help us kind of find opportunities and settle in on some things. I don't think this comes as much of a surprise to anybody, but this phase of the research, the industry, right? We have industry, competitor, customers. This phase to me is incredibly interesting if it's your business, but this can be a little dry sometimes. So I do apologize. It's not like the most, eye-popping, amazing information to be looking through. It's arduous work. Okay. So I'm never going to sugarcoat the fact that this research is hard. And that's, again, why I am here, to be able to act as a guide to help you go through this. So what I feel, though, is if you can get through this industry research, it's really going to inform and allow you to target customers and understand competitors at a much higher level than you could do otherwise. But I will say customer research is a lot more exciting and fun, and so is competitor research. It gets really interesting, and the rubber really starts hitting the road with those points. So if we can get through this big this part of industry, we're going to have done ourselves a big favor. So let's look through these a little bit. So again, this is just part of the form, that Google form sheet, and you can see there's a question here. What is the name of the industry? So you'll kind of catalog what you're doing in that Google form there, and then it's broken into sections. And so each of these sections has kind of related topics. And so the first question here, what is the total market size for this industry? I'm going to go through each of those 6 reports, and I'm going to look for things that tell me what the size of the market is. Now, there's going to be different ways that size is measured. It can be revenue, how much money is taken in through sales. It can be what they'll call expenditures often. And sometimes they'll just call it market size, right? So you have to look for different words that mean the same things. And so let's look at what we can do here. Oh, and by the way, I just want to put this up. I apologize. This is one of those death by PowerPoint slides where there's too much wording on it. I'm doing that more, not because I want you to read this. Again, this is more of a reference. But there are 14 questions basically that you're going to go through. So again, coming back to this, just seeing it in one place can be helpful. Like I said, not everything is going to be as relevant for every business, but these are pretty universal types of questions that we should have some decent answers for. And you should see 90 to 95%, if not 100%, will be answerable within these reports. So let's look at that first question. What's the total market size for my health and wellness coach industry with the specialization in as an herbalist? So the first report, this is one called First Research Industry Profiles, pretty clearly states that a combined annual revenue for the industry in the US is $2.5 trillion. Again, this is the healthcare sector. This includes all physicians, all surgeons, like all the big you know, players within the healthcare sector. When you hear sector versus industry, that's another thing. Sector tends to encompass multiple industries. Industries tends to be a little bit more niche. So just remember that. Great. So there's one. Here's another report. This is one called Statista that is also available at the library. And this one, I can't remember the exact, I think this was a wellness, the wellness industry. And now you can see wellness tourism expenditures in the US. The latest year they're showing is at $300 billion, right? So 2.5 trillion for the whole healthcare industry. Tourism, wellness tourism at 300. Again, we're not doing tourism, but it's giving us a sense of where the market is. So there we go. That's all we're trying to pull out. There was another little slide in that same report about the market size of workplace wellness industry. And so that is going to be at $18 billion. So we're rapidly dropping in numbers, although 18 billion is not a shabby number. Again, that's across the United States, and that gets into kind of like corporate wellness programs. So yeah. Now this is an IBIS World Report. These are those ones I was telling you are the kind of the gold standard. I love these ones. This is just one page out of usually a 50 to 60 page report. And it's telling us that again, in the life coaches industry, we are looking at a $2.1 billion revenue. And we'll get into it a little later, but there are some years that are put underneath the highlighted 2.1 billion there that show different year segments and the percentage of growth growth or decline. If it's in red, it'll be a decline. If it's green, it's an increase. And so there was quite a big increase between 2019 and 2024. That was pandemic and leading out of the major parts of the pandemic. And then it's showing 2024 to 2029 as a projection being a little lower than that. So basically they talk about this more, but it's basically coming out of the post-pandemic high and kind of leveling off into probably more like pre-pandemic kind of levels. So again, just things to know. We're not making any decisions yet. Here's another report that tells us that as of 2022, the US Census Bureau, again, there's a government, report for, again, this one was the all other miscellaneous healthcare. I can't quite remember the name of it, but its revenues are showing up as 19.9 billion. Great. And then you see they reference IBIS World as well. So again, just kind of shows you the influence that IBIS and those government sources can have. Here is the report that is specific to herbal supplements. Again, I didn't find one for the actual job of being an herbalist, but I found one related to herbal supplements. And so again, it's tangential, it's related, it's not exactly giving us what we need to do or what we need to make a really clear case, but it's providing us context, right? And that's at 12.551 billion for 2023. And then finally, one last one here. This was for the health coaching industry. It's telling us that we, in the US, the market in 2020, again, so we're kind of going a little further back than maybe is best for us, but we're at $7.1 billion, right? And, I don't know, I wonder if anyone has any thoughts on like what would be too old as a report. In this case, again, it's not like you have to bet everything on this number. It's just, again, it's providing context. It's in context with other numbers. But I would say that no matter what, you want as recent information as possible. But, it's 2025 now. A lot of reports from 2024 they tend to, well, it depends on the report, but they will often need to get through the entire 2024 to take the measurements, and then they will compile the reports. And so it's not usually in a good part into 2025 that you would get 2024's data, right? So if we think of it, 2023 is not going to be that awful for us. It's not going to be that everything turned completely on its head and we're in a totally opposite, ballpark at that point. But 2020 is starting to push it a little bit for me. I would be not completely skeptical of this, but I would just keep that in the back of my mind that we need to just be a little careful of that. And in fact, I may need to see if there's reports like this that have been updated since then. But regardless, this was a good report that I had found. So,
Okay, we do have a couple quick questions
oh,
here.
great.
Yeah, Lori's wanting to know, what report is this from again?
Which one? That last one?
I believe so.
Yeah.
No, the first one.
Sorry, Lori.
I picked
Oh,
up, the last ones were Statista and US Bureau of Census. I didn't quite catch the first one.
yeah. Let me show you. And again, when you get the slides, you'll be able to see this in a little bit more detail. But it was this here, and I didn't do a great job of capturing the title page of it. But this one is called First Research Industry Profiles. And when you get the slides, Lori, you'll see those demonstrations on how to get to them. And what I tend to do is I'll start on the homepage of the Denver Public Library, and I'll do a little screencast of how to access it from the homepage of the Denver Public Library. If you have any troubles with it or anything, let me know, and I'll gladly walk you through how to get to these. But these are really pretty great. They're not as flashy as like the IBIS World ones. They're mostly completely narrative based, and with a few graphs here and there, but they're pretty great. These are the ones that actually, because IBIS World it's incredibly pricey for libraries to buy. It tends to only be at libraries that have, like I mentioned, academic libraries with like MBA programs. So it's not even usually going to be at a more of like an undergraduate kind of liberal arts types college. It's usually if you have a graduate, like, master's in business administration type of program, that you'll find that. But the other thing I was going to say is IBIS World just doesn't really like to give subscriptions to public libraries. They kind of lock it down a little bit more at the academic level. So the Denver Public Library a number of years ago purchased this database called ABI Inform and First Research Industry Profiles, which again, none of these are like household names. You'll have to get used to these names a little bit, but it's housed within that database, and that's really the sole reason why we get it, is because of this titled report. And they have, I think they said, in the neighborhood of about, I think it seems a little too much, but I thought the number was in like about 1,000 different industries, which now that I say that, it seems too many. So I could be wrong about that. But yeah, usually you can find some pretty close ones there. And for you, Laura, I'm trying to think if I've seen what I've seen for, like, I don't know if they would have like music kind of education in it. We can look a little bit further, but First Research Industry Profiles, to answer your question, is the name of that one. Yeah.
And then another question, how do we get access to Statista? If
you have a Denver Public Library card, you can access these. So if we have a minute or so at the end, I'll do a quick demo of how to get that card. Otherwise, get in touch with me and I'll show you exactly how to get in there, find a bunch of these different resources. In fact, if you got in touch, we'd probably spend, about an hour just digging up resources that could be of use for you. I might do a little prep work beforehand to make sure that there's things related to it. But yeah, that's a Denver Public Library resource that I think Statista is only available at the Denver Public Library. I don't think there's another bigger library in Colorado that has that one.
That's it for now.
Cool. Good questions. Okay, I'm going to keep pushing through here. One of my death by PowerPoint slides again. This was just compiling the next question. And instead of showing you each report again, in this case, what is the industry's projected growth rate? Each one of these, again, FRIP, that's First Research Industry Profiles, told me that there was a revenue for the US healthcare sector is forecasted to grow at an annual compounded rate of 6%. Have you all heard of that measurement, compounded annual, or yeah, it's usually goes by CAGR, CAGR, which is compounded annual growth rate, basically. It's a measurement through a specific period of time. So from 2024 to 29, it's projected to grow 6%, which is pretty good. It's on the a little bit higher than a stable growth forecast. Statista is showing us that digital fitness and well-being market is projected to grow 23.85% from that same period of time. So that now we're talking about a steep growth spurt that's going to have. And again, that's digital fitness. I'd have to look a little bit further into what that is defined as, but I figure it's probably a lot of online coaching and other probably app related type of things. Yeah. IBIS is telling us there's for life coaching again, right? There's that CAGR, there it is, CAGR of 1.5% increase. So that again, it's not flat, it's moving up, but it's a little bit more on the slower growth, but it's not downward growth, right? So that's always good to see. And then a few others. Again, I don't want to waste all our time looking at that specifically. Also, how are we on time? We've got about 10 minutes. Great. So this slide here is just showing a little bit more of me kind of inputting the information into the form. Nothing really, again, just want you to see how I think about my process. You can see I'm taking those pieces of information from the report, plugging them into this form that I made for you as a tool. And what you're going to get at the end, again, just kind of going through that, is something like this. So I think I mentioned this, but what's going to happen for the link for that form is so that it's not tied to my Google Drive and I'm not going to be seeing these things. I've set it up so that the link you click onto will ask you to make a copy right away. And then that copy will live in your Google Drive. I apologize if you're not a Google Drive user. I've worked with enough people that tends to be something that's a little bit more ubiquitous than some of the other tools. If not, we can find other ways that we could do this. If at the very minimum, the most kind of crude way, I think, would just be having that list of those 14 questions that I showed you earlier, and even just by hand writing these out and or highlighting them in the reports in one way or another. So there's a lot of ways to do this. It really depends on your preferences. But what I love about this is you can see it all in one place. Now, this is just one report that I put in at that time. I didn't do all 5 or 6 of them, but if I did, you would see a separate column or row, sorry, for each report. And then you would have this matrix, right, of all of those pieces of information that you would now start to be able to see places for opportunities or potential information about customers and who are going to be your best customers. So that's what I think about, or the reason that I built that is so that you can compile these into one place. Now, so what I did with this is a little executive summary that I actually used an AI model for. So I took everything that I extracted. I encourage you to do that extraction from those reports and read those reports on your own. I don't know how much, AI related models that you have worked with, but they're not to a place where I would trust them 100% to be extracting all the correct information. And let's say it pulls the wrong information out and you start making decisions off it. Again, that's due diligence that was not really put forth, right? So be your own algorithm, be your own I in AI, be your own intelligence, pull this information out on your own. But what I asked is I put through a prompt with all of that information that I had extracted, that I knew was what was in those reports. And I asked it to create an executive summary for me. I use ChatGPT. I also tried it with that new model DeepSeek to see what the differences were. Try whatever you're interested in, but I really encourage you to be able to pull it into a summary that is very concise and very much something that you might be able to put into like a business plan. Some folks are going to really require business plans and the marketing market research reports to get loans for your businesses or to get funding and whatnot. So I encourage you to do that just so that you can have it narratively based, everything pulled into one place. And then what you can do, and this was one report, right? This is, I think, from the health coaching industry one. So this was the bottom right one of my original 6. Now you could do this for each 6 of, each of those 6 with an executive summary, and then you could put each of those executive summaries into an AI model and ask it to summarize all 6 of those so that you have now an overarching view of all the reports that you had looked at. But as you can see here, this tells me the size of the market, the expected growth rate, what opportunities I see. One of the top things there is this corporate wellness initiative. This is something that's rising, right? To me, that's an opportunity. Now, I might have gotten into health and wellness coaching to do direct to consumer coaching, but now I see that corporate wellness initiatives are rising. I can make a part of my revenue stream go towards working B2B, finding corporations or other entities that need my services and offering particular perks or benefits or partnerships that I can work on with them. To me, that's a growth opportunity, or that's even a strategic opportunity that I may not have originally thought of. Yeah. So let me go beyond here a little bit. And okay, so we have about 5 minutes actually. So I was going to get into the homebrew supply store thing. I would love to hear if you have any thoughts, questions, just how you feel about this. I know this is a lot and it can be time consuming. Any thoughts, any things, especially with the things that you all mentioned, coming into today, wanting to just learn about, learn some things that you might not have known about. Does anything come to mind that you'd like to ask about? Because again, with these slides, you'll be able to kind of come back and look through this in a little bit more detail. And if it's easier to come off mute, you're totally welcome to talk about it too, or chat. And if not, no worries. But usually I think what happens is this is like a bombardment of information. So it takes a little time to sift through this and think through it a little bit. Cool. Let me go on and interrupt me if there's anything else. So again, kind of doing the same process here. There's those questions again. Here is a deeper view of doing 3 different reports all in one place. And again, that's the stuff that I extracted. And often I'm copying and pasting it in there. So you can do it 2 ways. You can copy and paste directly from the report into the form, and then you just know that everything you did was somebody else's words, right? So you need to change that later down the line. Otherwise, you can paraphrase up front, knowing that you're not going to be plagiarizing necessarily. Again, from the library world, I think about that a lot too, just the kind of the ethics of using this information. So yeah, 3 reports all in one. Again, here's my, I now took the all 3 of those, ran them through the model, and I came up with this this overview that again gives me these growth rates for the different areas of reports that I was finding. Marketing trends. It's showing high-end ingredients, brewing kits, educational content. There was some things about experiential retail being a big thing. So again, these are giving me ideas and options for who now I'm going to be targeting customer-wise, and or again my competitors that I potentially need to be looking for. So again, highlighted things that seem relevant to me. So my next steps that I would say for you in terms of industry research, again, we're just focusing on that and took a pretty deep dive into it today, is to find 2, 3, 4 to 5 if you want reports. The first one's going to take the most. Like I said, this is not something you need to do every year to the same level. It's like maintenance. So if you give yourself the benefit of doing this one time, you're going to have what I tend to call kind of like pivot opportunities, right? You'll have other potential opportunities in your back pocket, and you'll be able to focus on the things that are most important, most specific, and with kind of the easiest work to get going on for you. So find some reports, read through them, put them through the workbook, the Google form, and then again, use some AI models if it's easier to compile that information that you extracted yourself. Again, I'd love to be able to talk one-on-one with everybody. I've already got some ideas that again haven't been able to really put forth so far, but I know that each one of you, we could work on some things and get you further down the road and get you some good ideas, for your particular businesses. And then what I put here, because I don't think the next webinar has been published yet, but there's a way that you can sign up for the newsletters that will, alert you to when the next webinar will be. And so that it's actually going to be on the 9th of April. And this is a little description of what it is. So we'll be finding competitors, uncovering competitive landscapes. I've got a number of tools that I think you'll really enjoy using to be able to do that, and to start evaluating who our competitors are. So that's what I've got for you today. Thank you so much for sharing what you're doing with your businesses and for doing the business creation. It's not easy. I'm in the throes of it myself, trying to figure it out. So I definitely commiserate with you and understand, how difficult it can be. And so I want to be a partner to help you sort through these things. And I'd love to get to work with you. So any other thoughts, questions, ideas?
Yeah, we definitely got some great feedback, Jay. Everybody's very thankful for the information and a lot of opportunities, great starting points for research. And I think they know they have some deep research ahead.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, that's what I've got for you tonight. I really appreciate you all taking the time, and I hope to get to work with you again soon.
And I don't know if we have any questions. I think.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I did ask in the chat, but does anyone have any last questions? No, not today. Okay, awesome. Yeah, definitely reach out to Jay. I'll be sending a follow-up email with his information, the recording, and some slides and some different links. So thank you, Jay, for presenting all the way from Spain for us.
Yep.
I know it's a time shift over there is quite late. So appreciate your efforts. And thank you everyone for being here. And we will connect soon. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.